Good morning and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John Becker. We are pleased to have one of the most powerful elected leaders in the state of Tennessee with us today. He is a husband, father, and also happens to be Speaker of the House of the Tennessee House. And that's important in this week where we've seen some changes in the U.S. House, or at least a lot of votes. Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, always good to have you with us. You've been a member of the legislature since 2010, been Speaker for more than 3.5 years now, and we'll talk to you about some of your priorities in the coming session. Let me introduce our panel. Billy Stair is a Democrat. He is a longtime political consultant. Susan Richardson Williams is a longtime Republican and also runs her own PR firm. Great to have both of you with us.
Good morning. Good morning.
Mr. Speaker, your only constitutional obligation as a legislature is to pass a balanced budget. But as we were talking before the broadcast, typically you'll see 1,500 to 1,700 bills proposed and maybe a couple hundred pass. What do you think is the most important thing you'll tackle this year besides the budget?
I think there's a few things. I think looking at how we handle congestion in our major cities all across the state, what route we go, is that choice lanes, is that something else? I think that will be a big issue. I think you're going to look at some violent crime. We got juvenile crime problems in the state. We're going to definitely take a look at that. And then I think you also have to talk about the Dobbs decision and about the trigger bill. I think there's going to be some legislation filed to look at trying to amend that to a certain degree.
Well, let's start there. The abortion law in Tennessee stands right now. Depending on who you talk to, lawyers will tell you there are zero exceptions in it. You think there may be some room for some compromise to change what is currently law?
Well, I don't know if we'll get to compromise or not, but I think there's room. Is when you have people, both sides say that life of the mother is in there, but it's unclear. And so when you have that, so what's the issue with just clarifying that life of the mother is an exception? Also, the affirmative defense, it doesn't make sense to have a physician to be guilty and have to prove themselves innocent. We need to change that standard back to what it normally should be in the judicial system. And then it opens up another whole conversation about should we include rape and incest, but it should also open up conversations about mental health and counseling for these women as well. And so hopefully we'll have a very good dialogue about this type of legislation.
And as far as you go, what would you like that law to say if you had your specific druthers?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of like with Mike Pence and Ronald Reagan. I believe there should be exceptions to it, the three exceptions, rape, incest, and life of the mother. I think you have to look at the language. There's a bill right now proposed by the other side of the aisle, which takes it all the way up to birth, which I think is way too far. And so you have to look at the language and see what that looks like. But I think for the most part, Tennesseans, and I agree with Tennesseans that having the three exceptions part of the bill makes sense.
Susan?
We had Representative Jason Zachary on here a few weeks ago. We asked him that question, do you think there was an appetite in the House to change it? He said no. And then I have heard Speaker Lieutenant Governor McNally be a little hesitant, I think, about it. But what I think I hear you saying is you feel like maybe there is an appetite in the House to have some exceptions, certainly for the life of the mother.
I think there is. There's going to have to be a bipartisan effort. I don't think you have over 50 votes in the House caucus that says they're going to go that route. But I think a bipartisan bill could get there. I also think we need to look at defining what's an elective abortion and a non-elective abortion. I think that's important, especially in the life of the mother. Every pregnancy where there's a life of the mother issue is a wanted pregnancy. That's not an unwanted pregnancy. And so I think that creates a difference when you're talking about it as two. And so I think there's just things we need to clarify, but we can have a bigger conversation about if it needs to expand from there.
Billy?
Let me ask you, Mr. Speaker, an education question. Last April, I think it was, Governor Lee announced that he was going to support about $32 million to create 50 new charter schools in Tennessee in partnership with Hillsdale College out of Michigan. As you know, plans changed when the president of Hillsdale made some disparaging remarks about Tennessee teachers in schools. Do you anticipate going forward that there will be any effort to partner with Hillsdale College?
Well, that's not our job to partner. That's the Charter Commission's job to figure out if someone wants to put a charter in, do they qualify, will they accept them? I think that's the proper role. Our job is to make sure that kids are educated, that they have the capability, that they can read, they can write, they can graduate high school, get a job, have an opportunity. And so that's what we're going to try. What we do know is there are charter schools that are very successful. But I'm not for charter schools all across the state in great school districts. Like Anderson County, Oak Ridge, it doesn't make sense to have a charter school there. But in Davidson County, Shelby County, and other areas where there's low performing schools and the parents have no options, it makes sense to give the parents another option for them to allow their kids to go to school. What I will say is you also have to trust your teachers. You have to trust your teachers to teach. And so 20 years ago, we only had a third of the students reading at grade level in third and fourth grade. Today, we're still at a third in third and fourth grade. That's not a teacher problem. I think we need to look at education as a wholesale and say, are we really teaching, or are we allowing our teachers to teach what's effective to allow this? Because it's been a problem for a long time, and we're still in the same place.
Let's stick with education, because third grade reading has been a key issue, and we saw the legislature say if you don't meet certain requirements set by the state, that we will hold you back. There are some exceptions and some things that students can do to ensure that they move on. Where do you see that standing, and will we see some change this session?
I think you'll see change. I think there needs to be some accountability. So I think you'll still see students being held back. I remember when I was in school, I don't know if y'all remember when you were in school, every time I got my report card in here, I'm like, please let me go forward. There was a sense that I may not go, right? I don't think students have that today. I think they automatically think they're going regardless of how they do in school. So we need to have some of that accountability to make sure that they know they have to perform to go to the next level. And so I think there's going to be a change. Our problem with the law is it only takes into account the TCAP. And that's not the only test that should be used. You should be able to use the tests that are done throughout the year. You shouldn't judge a student based on one day's test. If they have a bad day, had something bad happen at home, let's use a variety of tests and have a better benchmark. If they truly are on grade level or not, then let's have the conversation.
And that decision would be made by the teacher?
It would be made by the teachers based off the scores. They do a lot of things on reading and writing in the classroom throughout the year in addition to the TCAP. And so if you incorporate other tests in there, you have a better picture if they are on grade level.
And I just want to make sure we understand you specifically. Would the teacher have some influence as well versus just the test?
Well, I don't know if they would have influence on holding back. They obviously have influence as far as them being able to achieve and get to that level. But there's also, you have to have accountability with some type of score of how they do, and have something that you can see that's tangible that you can look at. And that's what we're trying to achieve.
All right, we're going to take a quick break on Inside Tennessee. Back with more questions about the legislature and what's ahead with the Speaker of the House right after this.